Oh, that means I have to behave.
Good morning. Welcome, everybody. I guess good afternoon for anyone else on other parts of the country or the world. This is Astro's first ever monthly member meetup. So very informal, just a conversation with one of our industry experts. Today we have Durk Johnson that's joined us, our housekeeping expert. I know, Durk, I'll let you give a quick background on your industry expertise and we'll take it off from there.
Sure. Yeah. I became a professional cleaner on October 1 of 2000, October 1st of 2000. That's when I became the assistant director of housekeeping for Deer Valley Lodging in Park City, Utah. And shortly thereafter came the Winter Olympics. So I jumped all in with that, and it was an exciting time. And since then, I've traveled around a little bit in different parts of the country, practicing and fine tuning my cleaning expertise. So I love cleaning up other people's messes, and I love talking about operations and effectiveness and finding the right answers. So excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, that's wonderful. It's our monthly topic, spring cleaning and cleanup ideas, getting ready for a busy travel summer season. We've also got Lauren Woodmeyer on the team here as well to help field questions and get the conversation started. The format's a little unique today. What we're going to do, if we can, we'll invite people up for panelists to speak if we get into a good conversation, but feel free to chat your questions, and that's how we'll get rolling. We do have a couple that were asked within our community prior to today's event, so we can start there. We did have a wonderful member ask Durk, let's go into spring cleaning, deep dive into windows. How often should you be washing them in a vacation rental? And what do you recommend there? Do it yourself, hire it out? What's your ideas?
Yeah, all sorts of different answers to that question, depending upon your resources and expertise. Obviously your view windows you want to do more frequently. If it's an ocean front or mountain view or valley view, the picture views, you want to do those more frequently. I'm a fan of the inside of the windows as far as a housekeeper or a cleaner can reach, doing those on every clean. And then, again, the picture windows, if they're, 15 feet, 20 feet tall, and you have the manpower to be able to clean those in-house, I would strongly recommend that. You can buy some good window cleaning equipment for about $100, $150, a good squeegee, a good bucket, and be able to then, stand on the ground. You don't need a ladder. You can get a telescoping pole and be able to put the product on the window and wash it. And you don't need a specific product, just a couple of drops of dish soap is more than enough to work on it. And then I do know some places, particularly in the salty environments, that after they clean them, they'll put Rain-X on the windows to help keep the salt and the other stuff off the windows. So
that would be huge if you're on the coast, especially like the Oregon coast, for example. I could see that working really well.
Yeah, for sure. And then also, Rain-X works really well on glass shower doors and other places like that to help speed that up.
Good call. I just had my windows cleaned professionally inside and out, and on a 2,500 square foot house, that was roughly $300. So fairly reasonable if you want to hire it out. Not sure if you have any other comments or experience in trying to seek out professional help there.
Yeah, no, I mean, the question really becomes, what manpower do you have and how do you want to manage it? If you're a real light operation, then going the contractor route and hiring somebody to come in and do it and building that rapport and that relationship where they can come in, every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, every 4 weeks, whatever the case may be, to get the windows cleaned. Again, I'm talking Vista windows. The whole house windows you could do once a quarter or once a year or twice a year, depending on what your frequency is in your environment. But again, if you're a large scale operation and you want to expand your ability to do and services you provide, bringing it in house and then charging appropriately to not only cover the labor, but also to have a little bit of income come off of it, certainly are both good options. It just depends on what your vision is for your particular entity.
Right.
And sometimes window cleaning is therapeutic. It's nice because you can go out, you can do it. I wouldn't call it mindless because you have to pay attention. However, when you step back, you say, wow, I feel good. I did that. And then you can continue on. So there's all sorts of things with that.
Sense of accomplishment. You can see the fruits of your labor.
Yes, for
And then a
sure.
lot of cleaning services. I mean, if you do hire that out for your house cleaners, a lot of them you can just have them spot clean if you and not have it be an additional expense. Is that pretty common?
Yeah, for sure. Again, during a departure clean or for sure in a deep clean, to have a cleaner, again, with their feet on the ground or maybe on a single or on the first or second step of a step stool, be able to clean the windows. I mean, they don't need to be doing anything super extravagant. If they have a pole with a doodle bug on the end of it, and they can put a rag on the doodle bug and then get that extra 4 or 5 or 6 feet reach, depending on how long the pole is, to clean the inside of the windows. Again, talking interior, you certainly could do that too, and just have that included in that. Yeah.
So then on that note, you mentioned deep clean. So maybe we just go into a little bit of how much more a deep clean should cover, how long should it take, those specifics.
Oh, if I had a Willy Wonka chocolate bar transporter, I would send one your way. So how long should it take really is directly related to how intensive your departure clean is. I worked for one company, or I consulted with one company where their deep clean was so detailed that a deep clean took 45 minutes. And then I've worked for another company where their deep clean and their departure clean were so far apart that it would take a factor of 2 or 3 times the departure clean to get to the deep clean. So the key is establishing your departure clean standards, and then establishing your deep clean standards, and then figuring out the variance between those two. And then that becomes the multiplier that you use for time. So there's not a hard and fast rule to say it's 1.5 times, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, or 7 times. It really depends on your departure clean and the standard of that clean, and then what your standard is for your departure clean. I'm sorry, I don't have a really finite answer to say it's X number of minutes, because it really depends on what your standard is. And the key thing here on the departure clean or on the deep clean is you're pulling the stove, you're pulling the refrigerator, you're tearing apart the beds, you're moving the furniture that's not moved to get into those things. And then also, for sure on your deep cleans, you're checking for bed bugs, you're doing all these things to make sure that the home is reset and ready. And then when you're pulling the refrigerator and stove, I always like to have a maintenance tech or someone do that, because there's a water line attached to the fridge, and if you put it back in correctly, it could leak. There's all sorts of things that then start to go into that.
Sure. Tricks of the trade. And just real quickly, Jessica Larsen from Cape Cod Cleaning just joined us also. She's kind of our cleaning expert on the East Coast as well. So we'll join her in on the conversation. I'm curious if either of you have a deep clean checklist that you offer through your other companies or anything, any resources there.
I call it a service standard. Yeah, for sure. I do. Yeah.
Okay.
We also have a list. We do require a deep clean prior to the start of every season. There's no exceptions. We estimate 2 hours per room, top to bottom. So it's very typical that a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,200 square foot Cape Cod house will need 12 man hours in order to move everything, wipe everything, all the flat surfaces, edges, interior of your kitchen cabinets, your oven, scrub out, and your fridge. So that's what we would estimate. And we then tell our owners, we give them a flat rate for turnovers based on normal wear and tear. So if somebody comes in parties, we start the process all the way over again. But we consider every turnover clean to be a deep cleaning. The house is simply managed as a project after that. So you don't necessarily need to do it every week. But if they've got 20-foot ceilings, I need to know that they need a pole next week because the webs are starting to show.
Starting to come back.
Does that make sense? But they are traditionally big jobs, and even for turnovers, you really want to factor in 45 minutes to an hour per room if you're going to move everything, pull everything apart, and swap your laundry.
And then the other key piece to that is if your homes still have, let's see, what's the word? Bedspreads and things of that nature, then those have to be laundered as well. And some of those are dry clean only. So you have to account for time for that, or be able to have loaners put in there in between if you're looking to wash those items,
Yeah, so we
which I
say
would strongly recommend too, because black lights show a lot and it's really good and fun to see.
3 sets of laundry. We definitely recommend that people lock up all their spare sets. If it's accessible, people will use it. So that's how we typically do the laundry. We take it all off site. We are very open with people. It is time and cost prohibitive for us to do it on site. And the last thing you want is to tell your tenant to do it, because I have been doing this for 12 years. And if you knew how many times I walked into a flooded first level because they took every last linen in the house and stuffed it into the washer on their way out the door, it's not worth it.
Yeah, one step at a time for sure. Oh, the stories I'm
So-
sure you both could tell.
For sure. One other thing before we depart deep cleans, and a lot of the deep cleaning departs on the occupancy, because there are some locations where, where it's a single season occupancy or high occupancy for one season, whether that's winter or summer, then one deep clean is sufficient. There are some areas where you have a winter and a summer, and so 2 deep cleans may be required. And then you have the areas where they have, 3 seasons or 3.5 seasons, then for sure you're starting to 3 deep cleans, or one of the deep cleans is something called a mini deep clean, which is not a full deep clean, but it's more than a departure clean. So there's all sorts of variances and nuances. You can start to look at that, because again, we want the people to check in to have the same standard of the people who checked in just after the deep clean. And so managing those cleans in an appropriate way and knowing what your standards are, and then being able to present those standards and maintain those standards for the different cleaning companies or employees, however that is for you, so you can match those standards.
Well, super helpful. I'm really curious. I was just putting together a quick poll to see if we can get this in the meetup here, but I'd really like to know how many people here attending actually clean themselves versus hire a professional cleaner, because that would be interesting to know.
Good question. Yes.
So feel free to post that in the chat for us to see. I'm not sure if that poll went through, but that would be really interesting, because things like pools and hot tubs, I mean, if you're cleaning the property yourself, how often is maintenance needed on those items?
Can I jump in real quick on this? Because I heard you guys talking about mechanics, and I'm going to tell you, most cleaning policies don't cover mechanical work on pools or checking heating systems or anything like that. So to be honest with you, as cleaners on Cape Cod, we don't do any of that. If you have a pool, you need somebody to come clean your pool. If you need water treatment, you need somebody that does water treatment, because the minute my cleaner picks something up and starts shocking your pool, we don't train them for that.
Absolutely. I could not agree more, because you want the people taking care of the pool to be a certified pool operator, which is done through your local health, your county health. And the cleaners, their number one task is to distinguish between clean and dirty, and to clean it, and then to notify of egregious damage or things that need to be fixed, so we can get that set up. Sure.
Yeah, I would imagine, especially when it comes to a pool, that'd be a pretty big undertaking to try and deal with that ongoing, and having maintenance for that is pretty crucial. But I was more leaning towards the hot tub or that type of scenario, how often you need to deal with it.
And I would follow Jessica's comment here, and the hot tubs are done by somebody specifically trained, not by a cleaner. Again, I know
we're inside cats and we're serious about it. If you want any outside work, then you need a property manager, because my policy actually doesn't cover that. My insurance doesn't.
And Jessica,
and further, I'm sorry, one other thing, even in my 10 years of business, we used to be covered by a huge national conglomerate insurance policy, and they dropped us for doing exactly this. They said, you can't go out and do these things. This isn't what we're covering you for. And so we're very careful. But if I had these issues, I know that other people had these issues, and there's a tendency to want to put everything on the cleaner because they're there. And I can sympathize with that.
right.
But the professionals who have been doing this a long time will tell you no, and they're right.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. And Jessica brings up a really good point of understanding not only your business insurance policy and also your workers' comp policy. Because again, as Jessica noted in the chat, that the workers' comp policy dictates the number of steps a professional cleaner can go up on the steps or on the ladders. And there are some policies that say 0, and there are some policies that say 1, 3, 4, and 6. And so you have to make sure that you are adhering to those policy guidelines to make sure that you stay within your coverage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Now, again, that's assuming you for that's all speaking from an employee standpoint. If you have a contractor, whatever the contractor decides to do is what they do, because that's, and then again, managing contractors, you want to make sure they have the right coverage. You want to make sure they have the right licenses and all those things that go with that.
Or it goes back to the owner.
Right.
It goes back to the, and that's really the benefit of using professionals.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are just let's say you're a single property host manager handling mostly everything by yourself, and this was the majority, 60% of our poll said that they use a professional cleaner. So more than likely that's a contractor, not so much an employee, I have to assume. What types of checklists, I mean, could you guys provide that maybe after our discussion here within the community on exactly what should be done on turns versus on a deep clean? I think that would be something super helpful, even for those that clean themselves. That was 40%, which is real interesting.
So here's and I so look forward to hearing what Jessica has to say, because we may have differing viewpoints, which means there's dialogue, which I love. So I am a fan of having something called what I call the standard property appearance. And that is where I take photos and I describe how my towels are hung, how the beds are made, where the remote controls go. How I want the pillows to be, how I want the kitchen set, how I want the guest amenities set. I want photos of all of those things. And then to my cleaners, whether they're a contractor or an employee, now how I train each one of those is different. I want to make sure that those different groups understand what my brand standard is, because that's what the standard property appearance is. And then really, there's only one question that matters from a checklist standpoint, and that is, did you clean the property to the standard property appearance? Yes or no? It's not, did you clean under the toilet? Did you clean under the toilet seat? Did you clean under the sink? Because all of those items are articulated and presented by photos in the standard property appearance. So that really becomes my de facto checklist. I've seen too many people come back at the end of the day, sit down with their piece of paper, draw a line down it, sign it, and say, yes, I did everything. And I've seen housekeepers with the digital apps go through and they just get bogged down in these 60 and 50 and 100 questions of, yes, I've done these things. And they're standing outside the door after they're done cleaning it, just going through and checking the buttons. So it's one question. Is it clean to my standard that I've been trained to? Yes or no? If the answer is no, well, then you go in and fix it. If the answer is yes, great, move on.
So are they actually taking pictures showing proof that they put everything that way? The cleaners?
I'll answer this question for.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I will. So we take pictures, and when I say we as a business owner, we do use a task management software. Our employees have a software that tells them everything they need to know about the house. Similarly to Durk, though, we don't have to clean. That's our rule. We just don't do it. So I expect every single thing to be cleaned. So there is no checklist. Where there is a checklist is with those specific things to the property or the owner. So if the owner has a guest they want, gift they want left out, or if there's something particular about the dishwasher, it needs a certain, whatever it is, those notes are all in there and we require a check. I would be happy to put a link to my terms in here, which does have a list. Please don't judge me. We're in a very high vacation region, this is all my pricing and everything, but it does sort of break down what we include in the flat rate pricing and what we don't, and kind of how we do things. And I'm happy to share this with anyone.
But I think, Jessica, that's the important piece, is what we're talking about is general terms. How we apply this to a Florida market versus a Colorado market. And even in those two states that I mentioned, there are variances and nuances from place to place. How I apply it in Naples, Florida is very different than how I apply it in Panama City. And it has to match who you are and who I am as a company. Because even in Panama City, there's a luxury, which is known as the spring break capital of the world now, as we're in the middle of spring break. There are high-end properties. So what we're discussing and describing has to match you as a company and you as an individual. Mm-hmm. So again, you look at who you are, who your clientele is, and who's coming to stay with you. And then you match the two so you can provide what's being asked for.
So all of our properties get pictures. In terms of the owners getting pictures back, that's a property management thing. So we have a couple tiers of service. And if you're on the highest tier, then you'll get photos of each thing. Otherwise, you'll get photos of the problems in live time. So our cleaners can take a photo of something that's broken and instantly we can send it to the owner, things like that.
Right.
For sure. And then just to take and twist this just slightly different, there are software or apps, however you want to term it, out there where they will require the cleaner to take a photo from a similar stance or position as the original photo in the app. And then the app takes and marries the two together to make sure that everything is as the standard should be. Now,
it's a hard one because a lot of people's inventory doesn't match. So just
for sure.
Get some pillows, and so it can be a little. But the idea being that you match the scene.
And I struggle with that. And this conversation is beyond the scope of what we have today of how to manage that, work through that, because and suffice it to say that I'm working with people with feelings. I'm working with individuals. I'm not working with robots. And to hold them accountable with two photos next to each other and to call them up from the other side of the country and say, hey, you got to go back and fix this, to me just doesn't match me being an employer of choice or me being somebody they want to work with. They could have had a terrible day. They could have had a traumatic experience the night before, and out of loyalty to me, they showed up to come and clean today, knowing they had to go and take care of this other item. And so they just had an off day. And I'm not going to know that unless I talk to them as an individual and I'm actually in the property with them to get to know them as an individual. Because I've had cleaners show up, with a traumatic experience, and they're just having a bad day. And I come to find out that because of this traumatic experience, they're struggling. And I look at them and say, why are you even here at work? You need to be gone. And they say, well, I didn't want to lose my job. And I'm like, well, time out. No, that issue you have is far more important than this. We can take care of this. Please go. And if I'm on the other side of the country, or I'm not having somebody there to connect with the individuals to provide this information and to do that, they're people and they're trying to do their best, and we need to work with them from that perspective. Sorry.
The software is great, but it has its limitations, obviously. There
it totally
needs to be a
does.
human component.
Absolutely, because any software needs to enhance the human side of the enterprise. Whether that's me as the owner, my front desk, my maintenance, my housekeeper, anybody. The software is to do that. I don't exist for the software. The software exists for me. So I need to find the software that matches my business practices, that matches how I operate, that matches me, matches my company, and then it enhances what's going on. Now, Jessica, I kept talking. You had something to say.
I was going to say, we switched about 2 years ago to a task management software. And I think it was a big bonus for our homeowners because they had a dashboard. So whereas in years past, if you're getting 150 phone calls asking you if you can have an early check-in while you're also trying to turn over 150 units, it doesn't work. So now we have, they can be notified that their unit is done and they can let their guest in early. So something like that is a bonus for everybody. If they extend their stay, they can go in and update their reservation without calling the cleaning team in a panic, and it will auto update on everybody's calendar. So there are a lot of positives to that. It does become setting expectations and making sure everybody is really clear on what each person is going to do.
Sure, makes a lot of sense. And Brady that just asked a question in our chat, read my mind actually. What types of management software do you use? And I think keeping in mind, Jessica, you use this a more enterprise scale. So I think the majority of our members are looking for something, 1, 2, 3 property type of management. So if you have recommendations or how to use those photos outside of software, we are all ears.
So how to use those photos outside. Previous to having this, we used Dropbox because it became an issue of employees. It's great that everybody's holding a phone, but we don't want everybody's photos yonder. If you've got 50 employees, whose cloud is Susie's photo in. So we used to put them in Dropbox, and that worked for us for a long time until we synced. So something as simple as that.
Or a Google Drive,
or a Google Drive.
Yes. If you're on your own, That's one thing. The other thing is that your cleaning company might have a solution. So previous to Pareto teams, we use something called ZenMaid, but there are a lot of, you're counting on your cleaner. It depends on whether you're self-managing and what that looks like, I guess.
It does. And to build on that, there's Easy Care, there's Breezeway, there's all sorts of software out there that can help you manage it. The other thing that I also want to say is that sometimes pen and paper is the way to go. Because if I'm asking my people to go to their cell phone, well, now they're going to see their Facebook posts, they're going to see their Instagram feeds, they're going to get distracted. So rather than provide their personal cell phone, I'll provide a cheap company phone that can be dropped in the toilet. So use the word controlling, although I'm not I guess I am. Trying to manage the distractions they have during the day, of being able to go through that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the idea of just using a simple Dropbox as verification, or at least having a set of photos that they can reference if you're just having a single cleaner come do one property for you.
Right, exactly. And that's where the standard property appearance comes in, whether it's in Dropbox, because again, I've curated that. I've made the time and effort to do that. So I want to make sure that my standard doesn't go elsewhere, because I've spent my time and effort to do that.
Right. But some of the partners, I know Breezeway, they're a member of Astrho. They do a great platform properly as well. Easy Care was another one you mentioned. Those are the top three that come to mind that would work with just a single property host and giving you these checklists and this task management for your cleaners. And good point, Jessica, there might be that your cleaners already use something that you could tap into, so you don't need to pay for anything additional.
For sure.
My cleaners are my employees. I guess the question becomes whether or not our users are employing their cleaners or employing a company who's employing their cleaners. And there's a big difference. And the minute you start handing people checklists, you might become an employer.
That's right. And
that's really it. You control the schedule and the supplies. And we've seen it time and again in my district, especially around real estate offices managing rentals and subbing out cleans. They'll determine that people are the employer. So you just want to be careful about that piece.
Yeah, and that would be a whole other conversation unto itself, is choosing between contractors, employees, and then maintaining the contractor relationship. So when the federal or state labor commission shows up to do an audit, that you're able to defend and show that, hey, my contractors truly are contractors, and I'm not using contractors to avoid paying the additional employee taxes that are associated with that. So again,
yeah.
Valid
proper
point.
Invoicing and all of the right records.
Well, it's what Jessica said, right? It's cleaning products. It's how am I treating them, right? Am I treating them like an employer or like a contractor? So are they wearing my uniforms, which they can't? Am I telling them what time to start to clean, which I can't? Am I telling them they have to use these products, which I can't? Again, as we start to look at this decision of contractor versus employee, how do I manage that? I mean, I can tell a contractor that this is what I want it to look like when you're done, hence the purpose of the standard property appearance. However, with an employee, I can say, this is how I want it done, and this is how you do it.
Got it. I'm guessing we could do an entire session around that topic alone.
We could.
Yeah. Well, let's talk dishes. I know we're at 9:30. Dirk, you said you had a few extra minutes to keep chatting. Yeah. Jessica, if you've got a few more too, that'd be great. How many hosts request their guests load/run the dishwasher, take out the trash, start the laundry, all those things, versus leaving it a mess and letting house cleaning handle that?
Almost everybody on our list, we give them a tenant checkout list. So we expect them to have taken the trash out. If they load the dishwasher and it's done, we will unload it for sure. If it's not done, we're not coming back. Nobody wants to pay for that. So then the next guest will arrive to a clean. We wouldn't take a client who expected their tenant to do the laundry.
Okay.
Yeah,
it will 100% be my problem.
Right. Laundry is going to be done outside of the home anyway, because of the way it has to be laundered and cared for. And I want my cleaners cleaning, not doing laundry. And if I ask them to do laundry in the house, it increases, depending on the size of the home, it can add anywhere from an hour to 12 hours worth of cleaning based on the size of the house. And my commercial machines are so much faster. I can produce so much more, and I can get a much better product and a cleaner product out of a commercial machine. So I don't expect my guests to do anything with the laundry. That's somebody else pulling trash, starting the dishwasher. Sure, that's fine. However,
laundry.
it's not done.
We do turn over all the beds. So like once we make a bed, we unmake it. We don't go through the process of figuring out whether or not it was slept in, because we have seen many beds remade to military precision that are full of sand. And so, it's not the 15-year-old or the 16-year-old, who might be working in the summer's job to determine whether or not somebody slept in a bed. It all goes.
Just all goes.
Okay.
I agree. And that includes towels too, from my perspective.
100%.
Yeah. And that's why your suggestion, Jessica, you said 3 sets of all linens from bedding to towels. I mean, normally the rule of thumb I thought was 2 sets, but I see why 3 makes a lot of sense. You're going to have wear and tear.
It's
5
3
if you do 3-day stays.
Yeah. And then I would also say for your washcloths and your kitchen linen, it's a 7 times what you need, because those items are disposable. If you're able to use those twice, you're money ahead.
Forks and wine glasses too.
Yeah.
Just sidebar.
Okay. So let's say, if you're one property owner cleaning it yourself, is it still acceptable to be doing the laundry yourself and doing that turn? But having 2 sets would obviously simplify and make things faster. Yeah.
More power to you.
I would advocate for, at a minimum, 2 sets, because that way it helps the cleaning process go. Because I can, based on how I clean, I use a 4-step cleaning process. And step 2 is make the beds after I've determined what's clean and dirty, and strip the beds. That way I can make the beds, and then I can do the laundry after I've left the house.
Otherwise,
especially if you have such a short window between the same day turns, that's
why.
A mandatory thing.
That's right.
So I'd love to hear more about the 4-step cleaning process though, Durk. Can you walk us through it?
Yeah, so there's 4 steps. The first step is I prepare the property. Second step is I make the beds. Step 3 is I clean. And step 4 is I place the towels and amenities. And so when I do step 1, there are 4 sub-steps. I'm gathering the trash, gathering the dirty dishes, distinguishing between clean and dirty. Oh, now I have to think. I did them out of order. Establish between clean and dirty, gather the trash, gather the dirty dishes.
That's when you note your damage. Also check inside the drawers. That's when we would check inside all the drawers. And our lead usually pulls the couch apart, because again, we do employ teenagers in the summer. So if we pull the couch apart, then they will vacuum under the cushions and put it back together. So
what she just described for me would be in step 1.
Okay.
I'm embarrassed. I can't remember my 4th step. I'm gonna have to go look. Well, it's terrible. So anyway, so that's the 4 steps. And then I use a methodology called follow the wall as I go through that to make sure I see and touch every part of the property.
Awesome. So I did want to go back to the dishwasher. If a guest didn't start the dishwasher or did not take out the garbage as expected upon checkout, do you take that out of a security deposit? Do you charge them? Do you say anything? How do you handle that?
Totally depends on the situation. Like we don't nickel and dime our owners, because that's not a win for anybody. So certainly we would take the trash out. Where it becomes an issue is if the trash has already been picked up and there's so much trash, it doesn't fit in the barrel, and the next guest shouldn't have to arrive to that. So if we have to coordinate things like that we can document, we recommend our owners, withhold that from their security deposit. But fundamentally, we bill the owners, because our agreement is with them.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and I agree with the depends. I'm not going to penalize a good guest for not doing something that's simple. However, if they've been a terrible guest, then coming back to them for an additional cleaning fee or something of that nature certainly would be on my list.
Sure.
Yeah, right.
Might not be just the dishwasher, but if there were other things included as well, that additional damage or excessive wear or whatever it might be.
Yep.
And the damage we're really there to catch for our owners. It's their property, it's our eyes that are there. And these cleaners know these houses so well, you would be amazed. I mean, even the kids, if you move the table 4 inches to the left, they'll be like, why did they redecorate? And they're really good. So I consider us to be pretty good at noticing damage, even though we don't go through and do a physical inventory. And that's a huge piece. So knowing that the same cleaners come into the house, that would be a question I would ask a professional cleaning company.
Sure.
Are you able
Consistency of the same individuals coming through instead of a
Yes.
random person, right? That makes
Outside
a
of-
lot of sense.
A lot of sense, because then they take ownership. And, you know, we've been doing this 10 years. We didn't have a single callback last year. It was our best year. Everybody was done and
Congratulations.
by 4, not 1. And a lot of it is, you know, I also feel that when houses are well maintained, the guest treats them better. So over the years, we've kind of not stuck in there with people who don't want to maintain their homes, because it does matter.
Sure. Well, any last minute tips of advice for somebody cleaning themselves? I'll leave one last call for the chat and then let you guys speak on advice for self cleaners. And then I also want to invite both of you to post any information about how to contact you, your websites, that sort of information. If we can, if anyone wants to get in touch, feel free to post that in the chat, but welcome your words of wisdom.
Go green.
Go green.
We did it so cheaply back in the day. We now clean with a water ionizer, which is a little bit more of an investment, but way back when, we started with a baking soda paste and a vinegar mixture with lavender and tea tree oil, and it cleans everything. There's nothing we couldn't clean. And it's a great advertising point. It's healthier for you. It's healthier for your guests. There's literally nobody that doesn't win in that equation. So go figure out little simple ways to go green.
I bet it smells fantastic too.
And my stance on the cleaning products, which is funny, we both chose cleaning products to talk about. I think that's very interesting. Mine is to find a commercial product, because my labor is what's expensive, and I want my commercial product to break down the body oils, soap scums, do the disinfecting, do the sanitizing, and then so all I have to do is come by and wipe. Again, you know, we start looking at COVID, we start looking at E. coli, salmonella, MRSA, all these things. All of those, the product I want, I need to kill those microbes in a very, very short dwell time, while it also breaks down all these other items that I'm trying to get off the counter. And again, a product that I can spray, let it dwell, and wipe, I don't have to rinse, is what I need to be doing. So don't go to your big box store and buy the product that's on sale. Find a janitorial supply company, establish a good relationship, and buy a commercial product.
But know how to use it. Please don't.
You have to know how to use it. You totally do, right? So ask them for training.
You have
Absolutely.
to know.
And you're going to have multiple products, because what you use on the counter or on the toilet may not work on the floor.
I've got one other one too with cleaning products. Leave them for your guest. So best cleaning pro tip ever, make it easy for your guests to clean up after themselves. Not that you expect them to clean, that you expect them to clean up if they spill something. So leave paper towels and a spray bottle under every sink. Make sure that they have those simple things. We recommend that people put a vacuum on each floor, particularly if it's a larger house, because people will actually care for the space. Whereas if they have to carry the vacuum up 2 flights of stairs, they might not.
Yeah, again, looking at your environments, you know, you want to make sure, if you're going to leave, if you're a home that welcomes lots of small children, rather than leaving the product under the sink, maybe putting it up high in the laundry room where it's out of the way. You know, things of that nature are points to consider. And the other thing on cleaning products is, whatever cleaning product you have, you must have a safety data sheet.
A label.
You are a cleaning professional now. You must have safety data sheets. That means you can't make your own cleaning products unless you're going to incur the cost of having a safety data sheet made, which is why I always say, go to a janitorial supply company, buy a product, and they'll provide you with the safety data sheets and the training on how to use it.
And we actually, we had them made, just so you know, so it's totally doable as well.
Can be done. Do those have to be kept in a binder in the house somewhere, or does that have to be stored with the product?
No, it can be back at the office.
But the product must be labeled. So for those other bottles, we actually have, we use 2 different pHs of water, and they're labeled and they're color coded, because we get, you know, people here on a visa whose primary language might not be English, and we want them to be able to easily spot the difference between the 2. So
absolutely.
Like that.
Wow. Great advice, you guys. Thank you so much, Durk and Jessica. We really appreciate your expert advice, your feedback. We recorded the session, so we'll be posting it in our community. We can keep the conversation going through comments there. So feel free to join us once we get that posted. And thank you again. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Take care, everybody.